good.
I guess I gotta go higher than you guys. Hold on. Close enough.
You are way higher than us. It is hilarious.
Way higher.
You guys have a lot of space above your heads.
And you're probably the shortest above us, I'm guessing, among us.
Yeah, I'm not
How
not
tall
taller
are
than
you?
Flags.
How
I'm
tall are
6
you?
foot 6'1".
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I'm the shortest. And guess what?
Loser.
I've hit a bomb the most recent of all you motherfuckers, so I don't want to hear it. Fuck with me. Some big ABs today. We won. We won 11-10. I did not throw as well as I'd like to. I got hit for the first time really all year.
Oh, come on.
Gave up 3 runs over 3. Hey, dude, come on is right. 2 weeks off is too much for old men, Jackson. That's what you don't know.
What just happened?
Tough. But we went on a walk-off, and it was our 10-hitter who did not have a hit all year long, hit a double into the gap to win the
That's
game. It was
sick.
awesome.
That is
Yeah,
awesome.
it was huge.
That's awesome.
Yeah, man, big time.
Almost like right stage starting guy with an 8.5 ERA. It tore like eight innings with 1-run ball against Vanderbilt.
Yeah, insane. Yeah.
8.5
Dude.
8.5
Absolute dude.
ERA's under 8 now.
Oh, we have a topic to talk about. Breaking news. Jack
What happened?
Caglione is coming up to the big leagues.
Hey,
Come
the
on,
Cags!
baby.
Woohoo!
Let's go.
Love that.
Come on.
Cags to the league? What you mean?
Guess an outfield DH?
I
Gotta
would
be.
imagine so. They've been running him in the
Well,
outfield. a bunch.
we'll have the whole conversation. Not so fast. Not so
Come
fast.
on. Let's go.
Awesome. That's
Breaking news, not broken by us.
awesome. But will be discussed by us.
Yes.
Love it.
Broken to me by our good friend Justin Aguiar.
Hell yeah. Justin, shout out. What up, baby?
Shout out Justin with coming in clutch with some information.
Now the real question is, in 3 months, if their bullpen starts struggling, do you just go to right field?
Let 'em
and
throw?
left field?
Thinking about it. Well, you got to imagine if you get into a situation where it's like we need a position player to pitch. Like,
I was thinking the same
let him
thing.
go. Like, what's the
No,
difference?
what do you throw Ephesus? That's the thing.
No, I think
No, I
he'd
don't
just
think-
absolutely get after it.
I think he'd be like, I don't think he'd chuck it though. I think he'd be like upper 80s.
Nah, I don't
You
think
think he's
he.
undefeated?
I don't think even.
No,
when he
you
pitched
got to
at-
understand, man.
I don't think when he pitched at Florida,
Pitcher's
he
a
had
pitcher.
enough body knowledge to do one or the other. I think he's.
Pitcher's a pitcher.
I think he's 0 or 100. I think he's a thrower. He's not a pitcher
So-
anyways.
He's not Brett Phillips. He's not Brett Phillips.
Or
Brett
Joe
Phillips with
Gallo, I
Epis
guess.
U56 and then throw 94.
What's his story? Because he was coming back as a pitcher. He was in the Yankees org.
Gallo, Phillips, or Naquin.
All three.
Don't know anything. I don't have any updates on Phillips. Naquin's been down in like ACL with the Guardians, and I don't know that Gallo's signed yet.
His first
Yeah,
outing.
Gallo hasn't signed. I
Naquin's
saw
first
Gallo throw
outing.
one pitch in a bullpen once.
Naquin's
Yeah.
first outing was like
Oh, I know.
I think he struck one person out. I think he had like 3 balks.
Yeah.
It was just like, oh yeah, guys got to remember how to be on the mound.
All right,
That's what he needs to get going.
start us off.
Ready to get this thing rocking and
Let's do it.
rolling. Okay, we're in it. We're back. We missed last week because
Break.
of break. We missed last week because of Mother's Day, Memorial Day.
Memorial Day.
My bad. I can't
Close,
keep track.
so close.
Missed last week because of
So happy
Memorial
for your
Day,
mother, Fox.
but we are back with our live show, and we are going to start with a true weekly roundup because that's what this is called. So we're going to start in the National League this week. The Mets and Phillies are what I like to call playing a college basketball game. They're on a game of runs. Every 10 games, they just flip-flop who wants to play well, who doesn't. The Mets are 8-2 in their last 10. The Phillies are 5-5. They just got swept by the Brewers. They're just kind of going back and forth. And the Nats are hanging around there. The Nats are playing some good baseball.
Hottest team in the division over the last 6 games.
Yeah, some would say. NL West is more headlined by what's been bad rather than what's been good. Unfortunately, we're going to talk about that on the podcast episode tomorrow. Not necessarily what's been bad, but what we would do if we had a handle on the Rockies right now and kind of how we would focus on getting them going in the right direction. Dodgers, Padres, obviously still playing pretty good baseball. They're good ball clubs, and that's not changing. So get used to it. NL Central, Cardinals are hanging around. Brewers are the hottest team in baseball, 7 straight. And the Cubs are just still slamming the ball all over the field. I saw Kyle Tucker left the game early today. I didn't know what the full report was on that, so I didn't want to dig into it too much until more information came out. Over to the American League. Blue Jays probably been the most surprising team, I think, of anybody in the AL East. They are 3 games over 500, 6-4 in their last 10. But the Rays are starting to play much better baseball. The Rays are really hot right now. They had a stretch. They had a 7-win, 8-win in a row stretch. 7-3 in their last 10. Starting to play better baseball at home. That was their big issue.
Junior Caminero is blossoming right in front of our eyes. One of the hottest hitters over the last 7 to 10 games in all of baseball right now.
And it's fun to watch. The Orioles are 6-2 in their last 8, starting to play better baseball here and there. It was helped out by getting to play the White Sox. They swept the White Sox.
They are 3-0 since I stepped foot into Camden Yards, people.
This is true.
Just throwing it out there.
This is true.
3-0.
The American League Central is doing what the American League Central does. They are hosts of the best team in baseball. The Tigers, 39-21, trying to make their case for the first team to 40 wins. A lot of just, I don't want to say middle-of-the-road baseball being played there right now, but just kind of maintaining status quo of playing good, winning baseball. And then finally over to the American League West, which I think is probably my favorite and most interesting right now, just because a lot of things can happen at the top. The Rangers are 2 games under 500, but only 4 games back out of the division lead. Astros are playing better baseball, still missing Yordan Alvarez right now. And then the Mariners are 16-14 at home, starting to hit the ball a little bit better at home. And I know this is where we really wanted to start the day. Cal Raleigh is on a heater of all heaters. You want to talk about Aaron Judge hits home runs, Shohei hits home runs. The man's got 23. The man has pop. And I think that's where we have to start today.
Yeah, dude. Big dumper, torpedo thumpers left and right. Cal Raleigh is unequivocally right now the best catcher in baseball, and he's playing like a top 5 player in all of baseball from a production perspective. I mean, talk about a guy who's got over 1,000 OPS, still hitting only keyword 264, but over 212 at bats. We're talking about a guy who at the current moment is pacing 50 plus home runs from behind the plate. What he's done is impressive. The at bats are impressive. He's a Platinum Gold Glove Award winner. Seattle couldn't be happier right now if I had anything else to think about.
I have to imagine.
On pace to have one of the better catching seasons in the history of baseball.
Yeah.
3.3 WAR right now, by the way.
3.3 WAR.
For reference, Salvador Perez a couple years ago when he hit 48, I believe was around the 2 WAR mark. It could be mistaken there, the 2 to 3 WAR mark. So what Raleigh's doing offensively, he's racking up the WAR, and he's also been consistently still one of the best defensive catchers in baseball.
Holy smokes. Yeah, that's absolutely insane. Yeah, it's an interesting situation. Oh, we lost Ryan. We lost his video. That's okay. It's a fascinating situation because it's one of the hardest ballparks in baseball to hit in. And he's still doing what he's doing, and he's hitting a lot of the home runs at home. It's a tough ballpark, and he's mashing. I think he's seeing it well, and I don't – it sounds like an obvious thing to say, but when you look at the swings he's taking and the pitches he's not swinging at, he's putting himself in a position of success by getting himself into better counts, by getting to hit more of the pitches he wants to hit, which – is always the biggest difference in guys when they get hot and when they're not hitting well is whether or not they're choosing the right pitches to swing at, whether or not they're getting pitches to hit. I remember that as a hitter. it would always feel like when I was at my hottest, it was because I was just getting a lot of pitches that I could swing at. Like my swing was always fine. I think it's hard as a hitter to get your swing really out of whack. I think it's easy to tinker and throw off your timing and stuff like that. But for the most part, it felt like there was a lot more of it was just getting pitches to hit versus getting pitchers pitches and getting yourself into tough counts, which is, also happens to the same respect.
Absolutely.
I don't know. You have any other thoughts?
Not really. I mean, if it wasn't for Aaron Judge, he'd be in the MVP front running conversation. Even with Aaron Judge, he might compete for it. But
Yeah.
it's just been an unreal season. Gonna be interesting to see how this one goes down the record books for him. Like I said, it's gonna be up there. It has the potential to be able to host one of the best catching seasons in the history of baseball.
We fully lost Ryan now. Ryan's probably fuming.
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't happen to a better guy.
Yeah, right. Couldn't happen to a guy that could handle it better. I wanted to run through some injuries that have been happening around the league just to keep everybody on par with what's going on week to week. That's where we kind of like to have this weekly wrap-up exist. Starting with the issues, not the rehabs. AJ Smith-Shawver, unfortunately, he went down, and I want to talk about that a little bit more because it's a fascinating situation. Corbin Burns today went down early after a single to CJ Abrams, I think it was, and his cutter was down 2 or 3 ticks on the couple pitches before it happened. And then you saw him kind of mouth to some of the infielders like my elbow's gone. So I saw another tweet that said they were cautiously optimistic. I think that's what you're supposed to say.
Yeah,
I think the
you
likelihood
can't just say he's done right away.
yeah,
So.
you can't just say it until you see the MRI. So I understand the optimism, but the likelihood.
He's
I
back.
knew he was going to come back with a totally different situation. We still can't hear you. Make sure your mic is the right one. So we took off 1 week. We took off 1 week of our show, and it all goes out the window.
It all goes out.
Oh,
he's
now,
gone. Yeah.
oh God, he's got to be losing his mind.
He's gonna knock out your door trying to get on your stream now.
Yeah, that's exactly what's going to happen. Oh my God. Oh boy. I want to wait for him to come back.
Give it a couple.
No.
Give it a couple.
The also on the flip side, injuries, guys coming back. Yuri Perez, Shane Bieber, Otani, Logan Gilbert, Yu Darvish, all coming back in some form or fashion from a version of an elbow flexor tendon type of issue, all kind of making rehab assignment starts. I saw Yu Darvish through the other day, had some soreness, is going to work back into bullpens. Shane Bieber. Yeah, we got you now. He's back, baby. We are back. I'm just going through injuries just to catch you up, just to loop you back in, as they say in the corporate world. Ryan's really circling back to us. Okay, I'm done. That's my last one. Reagan's made a rehab start. It wasn't like anything to write home about, but the word around the street is that that's going to be his only rehab start, and he's going to make his way back to the big leagues now that he's healthy, because it was a groin issue, not an arm issue. So if his body recovers well from the rehab start, there's really no reason for him to throw down there. Again, he'll just come back and get himself going. Shane McClanahan, I saw, is going to start throwing off a mound and then a bullpen within the next week and a half. That's good to see. I know he's dealing with some tricep stuff. And then not on the pitching front, Christian Yelich and Bryce Harper. Good for the game. Both had x-rays that were negative after getting hit by pitches on the hand and the elbow, respectively. So, to truly circle back, Ryan, now that we have you here, I want your thoughts on Cal Raleigh in a little bit more of an extensive light. Because Jackson was just happy that he's doing well and didn't give me much. So I need more from you.
All right. Well, listen, the first off, the big thing with Cal Raleigh coming into the year, for everybody who wasn't aware, was the whole debate was pretty simple. It was, we've got Willem Contreras, Cal Raleigh, and Adley Rutschman as which guy is going to truly emerge in this Super 2 class of catchers. to be that guy. And coming into the year, the favorite pick was Adley Rutschman.
Yeah.
Now, Raleigh signs a large extension, and what has he done? He's come into the year and been fantastic. He was already starting off quite hot even prior to the torpedo bat once he got settled in. Somebody handed him a torpedo bat, and he really hasn't looked back when it comes to using that bat, which has been very impressive. But when you look at Raleigh, the big thing that I see from him is the fact that his quality of at-bats has continued to improve, right? We're talking about a 14.9% walk rate at the dish. His chase rate is is in the top 55 percentile of all of baseball, which means he's taking good at-bats on a regular basis. Obviously, a little bit of swing and miss with Raleigh, but at the end of the day, as a switch hitter who's always giving you strong side platoon effects and hitting for power, and then also coming out and being a top 5 catcher in all of baseball, it's hard not to love what you're seeing with him in Seattle. And the fact of the matter is, he does seem like a guy who comes to the job every single day and lets what he does on the field lead and show everybody what he's made of. You don't hear a ton from Raleigh, and everything's always positive when it comes to his interviews. I like what he's doing. And to boot, you're seeing it spark plug, though, the entire team. J.P. Crawford is having an excellent year right now with the bat from an offensive perspective. Yep. I mean, if you saw the bat flip that he had the other night when he pulled a home run in the 7th inning to give them the lead up there in Seattle, you can tell what type of just spark these guys are playing with. And when you get a guy like Crawford, who is a primarily defensive shortstop, or within his career from a production perspective at the plate, he has been, it just shows you what's going on there in Seattle. And the rotation is continuing to get healthier on a daily basis. What Seattle needs as we continue to move through this is simple. They need bullpen help, and they need to go get it sooner than later, because fortifying that bullpen in front of Munoz and Brash is going to be extremely important down the stretch if they want to continue to play well in the AL West.
It's a starting staff. Go ahead.
I was just going to say it's interesting to see how they approach the deadline this year. They're known to be a team who doesn't buy a lot, so we'll see if they end up buying at the deadline this year.
Yeah, DePoto tends to like to stockpile prospects. He's very similar to like Mike Elias and plenty of other GMs that love to live in the world of prospect hoarding for the safety net of saying, hey, I can go buy veterans if I really need to buy veterans, but the likelihood that that's going to last me a long-term window is small, so I'd rather build up a base of prospects to take me deeper into the future as the GM of this organization. So I get it, but...
I mean, they have 9 players in the top 100 prospects.
So I was going to say, they have enough now that when they want to go get who they want to go get, go do it. There's no reason not to go do it.
And you have these guys at a plethora of ages too, right? They've done a good job of staggering throughout the system. They're not all in one spot at the current moment. You do have a lot of guys who are in high A ball, but they're also 20 to 22 in high A ball. So there's guys who will move through that a little bit quicker than others. I love what they're doing. I think the most interesting piece of all of this is going to be with the way Cal Raleigh has not emerged, because we knew what Cal Raleigh is when he hit 30 home runs plus in the last 2 seasons. But we've been talking about Henry Ford for a very long time. He's a top prospect catcher in their system. He's a right-handed power bat. He's had his ups and downs as a minor league player, but he's a good defender behind the plate. And generally, and he looks to be on track to, as a 22-year-old, be a guy who could potentially be a middle-of-the-order bat as a backstop. That's the type of guy, in my personal opinion, you look at moving for high-end bullpen talent at this point, right? Because he's 22. We're starting to move in the 22, 23, 24 range of a player where they need to be getting at bats at the major league level if they're truly going to end up doing what they do.
And you're not holding on to him to be a backup.
No. You have to find a way to get Henry. I keep saying Harry Ford. I apologize.
That's okay.
You've got to get him into.
I won't hold it against you.
Well,
and I believe he has
wrong
still not played any other position other than catcher yet. I'm
to my knowledge
mistaken there. I'm pretty sure he's just been playing catcher. They haven't even tried to get him first base, outfield reps in.
He's hitting 325, 437, and 484 at the AAA level, which, by the way, right now, if he was to continue this pace, this would be his best minor league season across the board. Already at the AAA level here.
Something's got to give.
And we've talked about it since the offseason. What's one position the Mariners never really have gotten the production from that they would love to get production from?
Second base.
Well, sorry. Not a cursed position, but a position that is supposed to provide production. First base is what I was thinking of. There's a level at which it is odd and unique. It happens to teams every now and then when they somehow end up with a plethora of catching talent or first base talent, and it seems to be one or the other because you tend to shift guys into those corner outfield spots. There's plenty of those guys out there in the league that if they wanted to make a move for, they could go make a move for. Yeah. And you could move forward as a part of that deal to somebody that needs a little bit more longer-term catching outlook.
And there's probably 20, 25 teams in baseball who would take Ford in a heartbeat.
For sure.
Let's also keep in mind, too, that any high-end catching prospect always carries slightly more value than other guys that are around their level because of the ability to play the position.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? Nobody wants Ford to turn into a backup catcher, but when you have the ability for a guy's floor to simply be a backup catcher and has zero major league service time, it's generally a pretty easy option. But again, his bat is good enough that somebody is going to value him more than high enough for you to get what you want.
That's not just at the big league level either, by the way. Like if you look high school, college, like my buddy said this to me the other day. We were joking around about like when we were freshmen not making travel rosters. He was like, I never didn't make a travel roster. I was like, yeah, you were a catcher. Catchers take 4 catchers on the travel roster if you can afford the hotel rooms because you're never not going to leave yourself without a real catcher. Like that's how the catcher has an inherent value in being able to play a position that not everybody can play. High school, you always see a freshman on varsity that never sees the field, but he catches every bullpen because he's a catcher and you want to have a real catcher. I guess it depends on the high school program you're in. Like, what?
That was me as a freshman.
There you go. Right? Like that's how it works. But no, it'll be interesting to see, but Cal Raleigh playing the way that he's played opens up a lot of options for Seattle, opens up a lot of options for Jerry in the front office to figure out how to take this thing to the next level. The question will be whether or not he uses that opportunity now that he has him locked up to take this thing to the next level. Because for a long time it was, well, he's on his rookie contract, or, oh, he's going to be in arbitration, or, oh, what's going to happen within the window. Well, now you've started the clock because you've paid the guy the money or you've signed the contract. So now you know what the window is within, and he's doing well enough to propel the team to the spot you want to be in. You are a buyer. You can't shy away from being the buyer.
Oh, I completely agree. The other thing that's fun to bring up about Cal Raleigh, and it's something that all the analytical heads love, is he's at by far his highest pull air rate, which is at 40.1%. And as much as you really want to hear that, Flax, it is pretty fun to look at.
I don't dislike it for certain players. Like for a power hitting catcher, if you put him in the right spot in the lineup, I don't care if he strikes out if he's going to pop me 40 bombs. I want his pull air rate to be better because Cal Raleigh's a big enough dude physically that a missed pull air ball could still go out in half the ballparks in baseball.
Yeah. Listen, the biggest adjustment that I see when I look into what he's done this year too is Cal Raleigh has made sure that in 2025 he's hit the fastball better. We talk about how important this is for major league hitters, right? Last year he hit four-seam fastballs. In 2024 at a clip of 198 batting average and a 379 slug. He was by WOBA, a league average, slightly above league average hitter against fastballs. This year, 237, which is a 40-point jump, 539 slug, and he's almost a 400 WOBA guy against the fastball. To boot, let me throw this out there too. We're not just talking about four-seam fastballs. He's also doing the same type of thing against sinkers, right? Against 92 sinkers, 350, 950 slug. The
So-
adjustments that he made in the offseason are looking to have paid off.
So when we didn't have you on for a minute, what I had said to Jackson was he's doing a much better job of putting himself in a position to get the pitch he wants to hit. Hitting fastballs is really hard if you're getting a high percentage of changeups as a left-handed hitter or a right-handed hitter, because for him as a switch hitter, he's only ever seeing changeups that fall off the table and away from him.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to sit on fastballs, especially if you're getting those pitches earlier in the count. Now, it helps when you have a Jorge Polanco who's hitting the ball out of his mind. You have other guys around you that are hitting better, and it forces you to have to be the guy that gets pitched to. Now, it's the other way around, where he's not the guy who gets pitched to. He's the guy who's kind of getting worked around, and he knows that now, right? It's the same idea. It's what Aaron Judge is so good at, and this is what people don't talk about enough. And I think they talk about, like, oh, Aaron Judge walks a lot, but Aaron Judge takes advantage of the pitches that he does have to hit.
Yeah.
He doesn't go out of his way to hit incredible pitchers' pitches into weird spots in the ballpark. It happens with two strikes, but for the most part, Aaron Judge does a great job of taking advantage when you put it where he has the opportunity to swing and do damage. Cal Raleigh is taking advantage of getting the opportunity to do damage, and he's putting himself in more positions to do that damage or to get those pitches to do damage. And again, if he's a big enough guy to pull it in the air and have success even when he misses on those pull air, he's going to hit more home runs.
And I go back to the first thing that I mentioned here, right? He's at by far his best overall chase rate, and he's
Yeah, I
at
was
by
looking at
far
that
his
too.
best overall walk rate, right? What does this tell us? Better pitch selection, and he's not allowing pitches to beat him, right? If it's not something he can drive, it can just go right by him, and he's on to the next pitch.
Let me ask this
professional at bat
question.
from a guy this size who swings the bat the way he does at this clip is very impressive.
Let me ask this question because it's, and I'm curious if, for those listening, I want to see your answers in the chat because I'm really curious how people feel about this because we go back and forth on yearly awards and what matters most to get those yearly awards. If the season ends, and Aaron Judge is hitting 360 and Cal Raleigh's hitting 260, but Cal Raleigh's got 15 more home runs than him, right? Say Cal Raleigh hits 65 and Judge hits 50. And they're the front runners for MVP. What matters most to you in that situation? Is it so impressive that Judge hit 50 and 360, or is it incredibly impressive that playing a premier position like catcher and hitting 65 bombs? Like, what's the level at which Cal Raleigh has to play at to overtake Judge in an MVP race this year?
This is the dichotomy of the discussion that we had with Jack Wilson, right? Yeah. This is it's hard to see why a DH wins an MVP because they are not going out there to play the field every single day.
To be fair, Aaron Judge plays a really good right field.
Yeah. But that's where I'm going with this. So we're not talking about a DH and a right fielder now. We're talking about a right fielder and a catcher. And here's the thing. If Cal Raleigh, catching as many games as he will catch, hits 10 to 15 more home runs than Judge and the Mariners make the playoffs on his back, it's hard not to see why Raleigh is not at the bare minimum getting votes to be a first place MVP guy.
Oh, if the season ended
it.
today, he'd probably finish second, and it would be like a somewhat close second.
I think
It'd
so
be hard
too.
not to give it to Judge.
I tend to agree. Like in a normal year, I think Raleigh gets it. I just think what Judge is doing is so almost
He's hitting almost 400.
unbelievable that it's tough to It's tough to not give it to him in a way.
The production numbers are so eye-popping, they look like they're out of a video game, so I agree. However, let's call this what it is. When you're talking about how much a guy is affecting his team's ability to win, I think that's where you talk about the argument is there for Raleigh comparatively to Judge. Judge's production stats are unreal. We also just had a Yankees-Dodgers game where Judge was 3 for 4 with 2 home runs, and the Yankees lost 18-2. Right? I don't say that negatively. I'm just making the point that
But
Raleigh's
does that make him the
impact
most
rate-
valuable? Does that scream, well, he's clearly the most valuable player on this team?
Correct. For the Yankees, sure. But I'm saying that Raleigh's effect on the team being behind the plate is not just affecting them in an offensive perspective. It's not just affecting them in a defensive perspective. He affects how the pitchers are throwing on a nightly basis, right? Like, there is a part of this to me where we have to be honest with ourselves about what the job of a catcher is nowadays, because we forget about it because these guys aren't in MVP talks with any regularity. But guess what? It's back, and here we are. And I understand it's only 57 games in the season, but what Raleigh's doing with the bat, the defense, and the pitching staff right now, I think he's affecting the baseball game on a regular basis more than anybody in baseball at the current moment. I think there's an argument to say that from a position player perspective, he is affecting the game more than anybody on a daily basis.
Another real discussion to have with MVP voting is voter fatigue. Whether people admit it or not, it is a real thing that voters get tired of voting for Aaron Judge year after year after year. And if those Mariners win 94, 95 games and Raleigh has this kind of year, even if it's statistically neck and neck with him and Judge, there's a world where a bunch of voters are being like, this is a cool story, a catcher on a team that predominantly isn't awesome, putting up unreal numbers. This Judge guy's been competing for MVP awards for the past couple of years. There's a good chance Raleigh ends up getting some of those votes in a close race.
The other thing to think about with Judge too is we can all be honest with ourselves here. If he hits over 375, this still isn't a conversation.
No.
Right?
No.
If he hits anywhere over 350 and does what he's going to
do. Because you know he's going to hit 45 plus bombs, hitting 370, and there is no conversation.
And we're still talking about a guy who has 200 points up on Raleigh for OPS. My only point is that what he does behind the dish across the board, right, is where he makes up some of these numbers, because we can't only look at the fact that there was production to it. And it pissed everybody off last year with the Mookie situation, where people were really talking about him playing a certain position was going to give him a leg up and awards and different things of that nature. And we didn't love that because it's more of an offensive piece. But again, catcher, shortstop, and center field, I can see why there's always an argument of how they affect the game.
Yeah.
For sure.
No, absolutely. Oh, well, now we have to move to the topic that came upon us. Was not it was the topic that was given to us, which is Jack Caglione is going to be playing in a major league ballpark very soon, if not tomorrow.
You're not excited at all, are you?
Tomorrow or the next day. I don't know if the Royals are playing on Monday. I don't
you
know
won't you won't be available to watch that one, right?
Yeah, right. Well, you know me. No, I have no availability from work to watch a baseball game in the middle of the day. Let's see if they're playing tomorrow. They are not playing tomorrow, which makes sense why they waited until after today. He's got time to get there. He'll be playing in St. Louis.
Oh,
pretty big ballpark.
Yay! Yay!
Jackson, who are your St. Louis Cardinals going to be throwing against Caglione here?
If it's Miles Michaelis, it's an automatic 3-homer game for Caglione.
No, it's Palante. Palante? Same?
Too much better. Well, can we get Libertor going?
They did both lose. I think they either both lost to the Orioles or both should have lost to the Orioles, and then the Orioles bullpen destroyed any semblance of an opportunity.
The big question here with Cags is simple. Nobody's questioning what he will potentially be doing at the plate for them, which is improving their slug as a team, hopefully immensely. Balls over the fence, balls into gaps, so on and so forth. Where does he fit in the lineup? We talked about this last week on the pod, and this is just going to be weird. Do we know what the corresponding move is yet?
No, not that I've seen. Not that I've seen yet, but I could do a little Twitter survey.
So, for all who don't know, the Royals have been working Caglione in corner outfield spots. Is it just right field or is it both?
Pretty much just right field. He's only played one or two games in left.
Kansas City has been working him in the outfield right now. Obviously, with the pass squatch, Vinny Pasquantino, first base is pretty locked down for them. For all of you who don't know, Vinny is considered an above-average first baseman, and we also know he's a heart and soul guy on that roster right now and in that dugout. You're not going to move Pasquantino off of first base more than likely. DH might make a little bit of sense, as that's a spot where, At the current moment, Salvador Perez has scuffled a little bit this year to start the season. At the same time, it's Salvador Perez. There's a high likelihood that even at his elevated age, he's going to find a way to hit a little bit for the Royals and hit more home runs. I mean, it's for a catcher. That's elevated age, right? That's why I go that route. You are correct. I don't mean that poorly, but I'm at an elevated age this month too. Don't you dare worry about it, right? New decade. I totally understand where he's coming from. So either way, we're trying to understand where he fits in. So Jackson, Flax, when you look at Cags right now, how do the Royals fit Caglione into this lineup?
Oh goodness, it's always tough because you're on one hand you're excited for the guy who's coming up, but there is always a corresponding move, and the corresponding move means that somebody is getting sent down. And when I look at this roster that exists here, who plays what positions, they've got a couple of guys with options that are bench players at the moment. You've got a Mark Canha who doesn't have options. The likelihood is someone gets optioned down, but it's all about who's playing better and who's. I mean, John Rave is playing right field for them right now. He's got 3 options. If you look at John Rave's 2025 up to this point in 4 games, because he just got here, hasn't been anything to write home about. The likelihood that they swap them, pretty low. I think Waters has done well enough to stick around.
Yeah.
So then the question is, which one of those bench guys, and then who moves to the bench, Waters or Rave? Because you're not bringing Cags up to sit on the bench.
No. I think it's probably at the moment Rave, and I only say that because again, when you look at both of these players, at the end of the day, Waters has swung the bat well enough to continue to get the opportunity.
Yep.
And when we look at what's going on with the Royals right now, who are a team that is just kind of keeping their head above water and keeping themselves in the race, you need whoever is going to provide the offense. The other piece that you get with Waters, as we all know, is he's a switch hitter, ergo giving you strong side platoon regardless of who's on the hill. So I would probably expect them to lean Waters. I also believe Waters is out of options. If he has one, it's one left. But this might be his last option.
He has one, but if he got brought up this year, he has the option to go back down this year and come back up.
That's what I'm saying. So we're talking about a guy who we've burned all of his options, and this is your last opportunity to see him, right? So I think that it's probably Waters who goes to the bench, and I think he stays on the roster for sure.
The only other option was...
I'm sorry, Rave to the bench, and Waters gets opportunity to play.
The only other option here is I saw today Mikel Garcia got scratched because of thumb soreness. So there is the potential that this is a 10-day... he could go on a 10-day IL stint retroactive to today when the official transaction goes through, probably tomorrow or the next day. And it could be just a short stint to get him some big league at-bats and get him to kind of see it in this space. I hate the idea of that. I don't like that for him. But it also could be one of those situations where they bring him up, they use that IL stint so they don't have to move anybody down who just came up. And then once Garcia comes back, then one of those guys gets moved back down and Cags sticks around. But he also may not go to the IL. So that all might be out the window anyways.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jackson.
Yeah, I like the potential of the lineup. Right now they have 2 guys OPS plusing over 100, with Pasquantino and Waters being really close. They just need to pop in the lineup. Interested to see where Cag's going to hit in his first game. If they're going to go in and say, hey, you're hitting clean up, welcome.
We lost him.
We are just struggling tonight.
Yeah. You guys and your technology has not been great. Mine's fantastic, but mine also hasn't been used in 3 or 4 days, so it was ready and waiting for me.
We got him back.
You hear me?
Yeah, there he is.
Okay, there we go. Yeah,
where did you think he was going to hit the lineup?
Where they hit Cags in the lineup opening day, or his first game, they put him in the 4-hole. Because looking at that lineup, they could use him in the 4-hole. Just right away. If they're going to put him there, put him in the 8-hole, let him adjust. Interested to see how they adjust to that.
I'd
Vinny's
love to
been
see him.
Vinny's
get a
been one of the
classic.
better hitters in baseball though over the last like 3 weeks.
I could see them moving Vinny up and then putting Cags on the floor. Like there's some adjustments to be made there. Like I said, offense isn't exactly going nuts right now, so interested to see how they like. I kind of like Vinny as like a 2-3 hole guy with his on base percentage, and then Cags in the four behind Witt or something along those lines.
The likelihood that Cags comes up and doesn't get some sort of the nice part is for him it's not a situation where you put him in a certain spot in the lineup and he gets pitched one way, or you put him in another spot in the lineup he gets pitched another way. He's so high profile. They know they have so many guys that have watched so much of his stuff, the analytics on him. They're going to have a game plan already. So where you hit him to start may just end up being a little bit lower just to help him get his feet wet. And then you could see after 1 or 2 games him just getting pushed up into the lineup and say, let's get you into a spot that's going to be more regular so you can get, now that you're in the big leagues and you have been in a stadium where there's 3 levels of fans and you're past all that, now let's start taking at bats and doing the real thing.
I'd love to see them hit him 7. I'm a big proponent of you throw your rookie debut guy in the 7 hole and you let him hang out. And what happens. It's great.
Probably getting 4 at bats there. Like, gonna see a lot of different stuff.
Yes.
Gonna see a lot of different opportunities with guys on base because your 3, 4, 5 should generally get 1 or 2 hits and put you in a spot where you get to see some action, see some guys out of the stretch, see some guys out of the windup. Like it gives you a multitude of things.
Feels like it's a consistently low pressure spot for somebody to hit in the lineup to start.
Yeah, absolutely.
There's nothing else to it for me other than
It's
that. It's not like it's
basic,
going to
I've
give us
always
tough
loved-
pitches.
It's basic, but I've always loved putting him in the 9 hole. Past 2 years at ETACU, we've started a freshman outfielder opening day, put him in the 9 hole, and both of those guys end up being all conference freshman guys.
Nice.
I don't know.
I like
That's just it's different. I like it in the 9 hole because it can help turn the lineup over too. That can help, like putting a guy in the 9 hole can help make the impact of the lineup right away.
100%.
My big thing at the big league level about doing that is your 9 hole is already, because we have DHs now, it's already a very important spot for the lineup, which is why I like that 7-8 hole, because generally in one of those spots for most teams they're hitting their catcher, and in the other spot they're hitting somebody who's a little bit younger that needs something to begin with. At this point, even though from an analytical perspective when you're making a lineup it doesn't make sense to have a specific guy at the 9 hole, it makes sense to generally, technically speaking, put your worst hitter in the 9 hole. I like the thought process of a guy who can not a quote-unquote play a second leadoff role, but a guy who you feel very comfortable with turning over the lineup when they have to. So I could see why throwing Cags there wouldn't be a bad thing to do. I just question if they feel like they've already got that with somebody else and don't want to disturb that.
I'm betting $5 he's hitting 4th or 5th though.
I would take your $5 bet as well, because they'll shit, they might hit him leadoff at this point. I don't even know.
I mean, they need some pop.
Have him
They're
hit
bringing him
first,
up to
Witt
hit.
hit second, then Cags hit 3rd, Witt hit 4th. They get the first 4 at bats of the game.
Awesome. A golden at bat, anybody? We can just make sure Cags gets
Come on.
another AB. Come on.
Yeah, why not? No, we talked, like you said, we talked about it on the podcast this past week. We ran through a bunch of different guys in the minor leagues that are playing really well and setting themselves up to get called up at some point here, and
Forcing their way to the league.
right.
I mean,
And Roman Anthony's another one. We've talked about this a lot. Roman Anthony's doing all the right things. I think situationally, and I texted you about this earlier in the week because Marcelo Meyer didn't come up until Alex Bregman got hurt. And I think there is a fascinating situation, and I'm shifting topics because there's not much more to say about Cags, and I want to talk about Roman Anthony kind of in the same breath. I didn't think about this when we were talking about it on the podcast episode. So what I'm going to say here is not going to be in that. But what was so fascinating to me with Marcelo Meyer finally coming up when Bregman got hurt was it got me thinking, when Craig Breslow went through and started to put stuff together, it became very apparent through all the Ravi Devers stuff that the lines of communication were not great. And then the Marcelo Meyer comments came out after spring training that was basically like, yeah, nobody's really vocalized to us what the plan is here. So then the question becomes, is Craig Breslow kind of caught in between two different styles of building a roster, which is I'm taking over somebody else's team who very clearly built a really good collection of prospects, but the way I would tend to go about, building my team is we're the Boston Red Sox, we have the money to do it. Let's go buy the players that we want to buy to put in the right spots. So you go and buy an Alex Bregman. Great. Alex Bregman's been great as for the Red Sox. There's nothing bad you can say about it other than it really screwed up the timing of how you handled your three biggest prospects and how you handled your highest paid player. And I don't know that that's a complete correlation to them playing 500 baseball this year, but it's certainly a microcosm of them as a team in the way that they then put that roster out on the field being different every single night. Christian Campbell playing 7 different positions. Christian Campbell making errors at positions because he's not really getting to play the same position over and over again. And you start to see all that stuff compound really quickly.
Yeah, the biggest argument for me with this is, yes, Breslow took over somebody else's organization, and, the person who was his predecessor did a better job than a lot of people probably wanted to admit. It's just the truth of the situation. We've all talked about that already. However, the bigger thing that I think Breslow didn't like is the lack of ability to stagger when these guys start from a service time perspective. I think one thing that really helped Christian Campbell get that early contract deal is because they were all so close to being up at the same time and their clocks all getting started at the same time. The Red Sox, in some way, shape, or form, had to solidify how long they had at least one of these guys, right?
Yeah.
I equate a lot of things to what I watched happen in D.C. We had a multitude of opportunities to lock up Harper, Soto, or Turner. I truly, truly believe that Soto and Harper were probably always going to go to free agency. Turner, in a lot of his comments, definitely seemed like he was willing to stay, and it was us not talking to him. Harper stated that he thought he was going to be a national all offseason. Soto, we know, got a good offer. So I think that Breslow is having to really fight through this. I love what I have and I love what I was given, but I don't like the timing of it. And I think that's where the communication is really hurting this. Again, starting 3 potential superstars' clocks all in the same calendar season is not the greatest thing for longevity of your roster, right?
Yeah, I mean, 6
It
years is
narrows
not
window.
6 years is not a long time, but because they're all premier players and the likelihood is at best you keep 2 of the 3, starting with 6 years and seeing how far you can take it is also not a bad thing.
And it's
It's
not
not
a bad problem to have.
No,
Like,
Absolutely.
but but it is something
it
you
is a
can-
problem. Like,
It is a
'cause
problem.
if
Like, it
all
is
3 of these
something you
guys
can
ends up
do
being
incorrectly.
studs, yeah, if all 3 of these guys end up being studs, you have to either trade 1 or 2 of them in 2 years, or spend 80, 90, $100 million a year on 3 players. And that's lowballing it, if I'm being honest.
And that's hard
So-
to do.
This
Yeah,
is
100%.
part of the piece for us to talk about with this conversation, though. And when I bring up service time with these 3 guys, it's very important for me because we've gone from 3 to 2 now, okay? Because they signed Campbell to that deal. Good
Yep.
job by the Boston Red Sox. Good job by Breslow. You look like you got a dude. Plays a bunch of positions. Yes, we do need to get him playing one position. But let's look at the other 2. You have 6 years with your other 2. If you can only keep one of them, the likelihood of you allowing the other one to just walk and get nothing from him is very low. So the window on that player is only 4 to 5 years. Okay, so this is where I'm going with why not staggering them hurts them, because it cuts down the time you have that player. And the question is, what are you going to get from that player when time comes? And none of us can answer that question, right?
Yeah, I
So
think-
it's added uncertainty that, in my opinion, if you really work hard to have your guys play together, but stagger them in a way that's not malicious, of course, right? We want it to be good for the players still. I think you can find yourself where even a 1 year offset for these three guys, for at least two of them, right, would have been big. I think it would have helped.
100%. And it's looking like it's gonna be interesting to see how they go about it. With all, if they all end up coming up in three this year, they know they're gonna have to trade one of them in a couple of years. Do they trade them now with their top value, or are you gonna bet on all three of them 2 or 3 years from now and see if you could get a big deal out of one of them?
I saw someone the other day was saying like, "Hey, if you're not going to bring Roman Anthony up, and you like the way that this team is constructed, but you need a few more pieces, like that's your highest value to if you're Craig Breslow to move things in your direction. Anybody will want him. A lot of people are going to be willing to give a lot up for him. I disagree with it, but I'm just saying like he's the only guy now that hasn't cracked the big leagues. So the unknown factor is still there. That gives you maybe the opportunity to preach the upside in a potential deal, but I still think that's stupid. I think there's a place for him on this roster.
In the most respectful way possible, I don't think Breslow has the balls to do that either.
I don't know that many people do, right?
No,
I mean,
No.
There may be 3 GMs in sports who have the balls to trade a guy in that spot.
Well, and it's not only that, it's who you're the GM for. There's
Yeah.
only so many teams that could get away with it from a
Yeah.
fan base perspective.
the
That is not
bigger-
one of them.
The bigger surprise for me, when you really look at this roster, is that the Crochet trade did not swap Meyer and Teal. I gotta be honest. That is my biggest question mark for the trade. Narvaez has been great. I have nothing
Yeah,
more to
he's
say
putting
about
his
him.
name, putting his hat.
Anything
He's
of that
putting his name
nature,
in the
but-
hat for rookie of the year.
When you look at what was already on the big league roster, and knowing in some way, shape, or form you were pretty far down the road, more than likely at the time, internally with the Christian Campbell long-term signing, I think I probably keep the guy behind the plate over the shortstop.
Yeah.
Only because, again, Campbell has played an adequate shortstop at lower minor league levels, if you really had to. But you also paid this Trevor Story guy who's finally somewhat healthy, who is a middle infielder. Oh, by the way, you went and bought Alex Bregman, right? I think we could have solved a lot of this if there was the willingness. Now, here's the catch. Let me be very clear. Meyer looks like he's an all-world type talent, and Teal looks like he's an all-world type talent. So now I'm just nitpicking. But if I look at the construction of this roster and what they have, I do truly believe, and now I guess as I say all of this, they didn't have Bregman in the bag yet when they made that move. So
But that doesn't matter. They had a third baseman when they made the Bregman move. We talk about his defense, but like your highest paid player was your third baseman before you made the Bregman. You weren't trying to fill a gap there. Like it is roster.
Was also healthy at the time too.
Yes, but like it is roster construction. Keeping a Teal versus a Meyer when you have a multitude of athletes that already exist in your organization. Like Rafaela could have played one of those positions. He's proven that he can. He's proven that he can play good defense across the majority of the field.
Rafael is the reason why they have the ability to still do things.
Yeah.
Let's be like, one of the best parts is you have two guys who, if you truly wanted them to be, which one of them is being forced to be this right now, is two high-end super utility guys. Campbell is a high-end super utility guy, and Rafaela defensively is a high-end super utility guy, right? And he has some offensive upside. Let's be clear, still a younger player, still potentially has a little bit more to give, but worst comes to worst, Rafaela is your utility guy until he no longer holds a contract with the Boston Red Sox.
Yep. Which, the real question, and we talked about this on the podcast, who moves when Roman Anthony comes up, and it's got to be David Hamilton.
From a perspective of who goes down, unfortunately, it probably is, right?
Yeah.
Campbell has just played too well. Rafaela plays more positions than him. He also gives you a little bit more. I believe he gives a little bit more on the base pass than Hamilton. They're both pretty quick. However, at the end of the day, when you've got a guy who can play every position on the field other than catch, he's always going to hold the roster spot over another guy who's hitting at a similar clip.
But the likelihood that Rafael is in there day in, day out is lower.
Yes.
Anthony's on the roster. Rafael is going to.
Jaron Duran's probably your everyday center fielder at that rate.
I think so, and he's done it before, right? He's
that
played
ballpark
center
very
field in
well.
Boston. This is not.
Yep.
That's not a scary move for him. It makes a lot of sense. And again, let's throw this out there. Who says it's not Anthony? It's not like he can't play a very good branded defense in center field if they need him to. I think you take the guy who's more experienced and you let him learn how to play the wall and left.
It's a tough center field. That's a tough center field to play.
Let's be honest. Boston is a tough place to play in the outfield. It's not just their center field. You have to learn how to play things off the monster, and you have to learn how much space there is in the right field corner.
More
right?
anything.
And then the center field is just weird.
The good news about the monster, though, is if you're playing left field and the ball is hit over your head, you don't need to keep running backwards.
You go forward.
Sure.
You go forwards, right?
But
Like there's a level at which you can learn the wall quicker than you can learn the space in center field, in my mind.
That's also why it's the best of the three positions for him to learn act.
Yes.
I think if you're starting an outfielder in Boston, you have them learn how to play the monster, and then you move them around from there, unless they are truly, for whatever reason, considered a right fielder.
Right. So the only other guy I want to talk about that, before we wrap up here, I want to talk about the whole situation in Pittsburgh, because they have guys that are movable pieces right now. Keep Ryan Hayes, Brian Reynolds, realistically, Jared Jones, Mitch Keller, movable pieces. They came out today and said Paul Skeens, O'Neal Cruz are absolutely not movable pieces. Now, that's what they say. The reality of the situation is if you're a GM, you should be listening on anyone. You know what the return needs to be, and if the return isn't what you believe it should be, then you just say no. We talked on the podcast about what the realistic return for Paul Skeens would be, and I think for a lot of people it's more than they want to admit he's worth. Especially some of the nonsense we saw going out there. Like if any of those teams were offered that, they would have already picked up the phone and done it.
Yeah.
The bigger story here is I don't know who could actually afford what Paul Skeens is worth.
Well, let's throw Paul Skeens out the window because we talked about Paul Skeens in the pod.
O'Neal Cruz is a more interesting conversation.
What Paul Skeens is worth, there's not a single team in baseball that's going to give it.
No.
The reminder for people with the Paul Skeens discussion, and we had this on last week's pod if you're interested in hearing more, is that Paul Skeens has 4.5 years of controllability. Look at what Washington got for Juan Soto with 2.5 years of controllability. No, Paul Skeens is not Juan Soto because he's not an outfielder who generally hits with a WOBA of 420 or higher. However, Paul Skeens is right now considered one of the top 5 pitchers on the face of the earth, who's playing on a team that unfortunately is not in a consistent position to win. Skeens right now, to anybody, should technically speaking be valued at or higher than the Soto trade. And the likelihood of teams giving out 2 guys 25 and under who are former top prospects, 2 of their top 5 prospects, and 1 of their top 10 prospects, plus a throw-in guy who can play Major League Baseball. And again, that might not be enough. There's nobody who's giving the Kings ransom, in my opinion. Nobody's giving it. So,
No.
O'Neal Cruz on the flip side, right? There's at least a little bit more we could talk about here, but he's another guy where it's hard for me to understand why you move him yet. You still have to sell tickets in Pittsburgh.
Play
You
better
come to the
baseball, you sell
ballpark to
tickets
see-
pretty quickly.
You come to the ballpark, though, right now in Pittsburgh over everybody else offensively to see O'Neal Cruz.
For sure. Do you think he's currently meeting the mark necessary to garner what I think other people would maybe expect he could have garnered at like the peak of his expectations?
Yeah, that was my whole thing. Is that I think a lot of it with him is still projecting.
Right.
Like he's a really good player and he's playing good right now.
Has he
but
done
there's
enough?
still a lot of projectability there with him. With Skeens is already a bona fide proven
Yeah, right.
ace.
He's an
Like,
ace.
yeah, he is an ace of the aces. Like, Cruz still has some project there. Like, I he's not a top 10, 20 player in baseball right now, but he easily you could see in 2 years him going 30-30, hitting 290. And you look up and he's a 7 WAR player, pretty
Yeah.
easily.
If they put him in, if they would just put him in right field and
Put him in
get a
right
real
field, yeah.
center fielder, then yeah, he wouldn't lose. He wouldn't lose WAR at a faster rate than he's gaining it offensively.
If only we were GMs of the Pirates.
Uh, Shout out Hall of Good. They every month will put out a calculator of how many followers they've gained and how much money each person would have to put up to buy the Pirates at their
Yeah.
current
I think it's
valued
like
expectation.
15,000 now.
It just dropped. It's like 14. It's like 14 and change now.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, they gained more followers. So I
If they get like 1,000, I think I would think about putting it up.
yeah,
Like,
because you know what? You know what would happen is if you get enough people to follow you, that it would be like $1,000 per person. The likelihood that you have people in there that would put like 10,000 for X amount of shares, then you could actually put like a structured thing together and just like they could do it. It's
You
not
guys
impossible.
really think Manfred's going to approve
Yes.
that to happen?
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Well, when you need a GM, let us know.
You know how beneficial it would be to the game of baseball
If
to
the
have
Hall
a
is good.
to have a team that is publicly owned.
Oh my
You
God.
because you could literally treat it like a stock and continuously have opportunities for people to buy in and just create cash flow. Like there is no revenue generation needed. You just create opportunities for cash insurgents.
All I know, if I'm a part owner of the Pirates and they trade Skeens, I'm selling my stock. That's all I know.
It would bring a lot of that. It would bring you. Could you imagine every trade would have to go through a shareholders vote?
No, I think the Hall of Good just posted on his Instagram story. Yes or no.
Should we trade? Should we trade?
What do you guys think of this offer?
We
Came
have
in last night.
We have this trade on the board. They're waiting until we see our Instagram votes and who comes through, and then we either will or will not make said trade.
You imagine if that's what made somebody move across the country, guys? This is not good.
Could you imagine how fast those players would be in the comments, being like, "Please don't do this. I don't want
wanna go to
want
Pittsburgh.
this.
I don't want to go to Pittsburgh.
I don't want to play for the Pirates. Please don't let this happen."
So,
The likelihood is that player
Chat,
is going to be sellers.
Shohei Ohtani.
Yeah, chat. Do we get Shohei? So there would inevitably be somebody who said no. Like, no, he doesn't fit on our roster. Sorry,
The fun's not worth it.
50 bombs and 50 stolen bases doesn't fit on your roster. My bad.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Shout out Jack Wilson. He'd be our closer.
absolutely, he would be.
For sure.
Ohtani to the pen. Ohtani
I saw
to the pen.
Ortiz on Fox the other night. Yankees in the pregame for Yankees Dodgers also made the same comment. And then there was a Twitter video post where Ortiz was like, "I don't know why they're not bringing him back as a closer. I don't know why you'd make him a starter."
Listen, he already
Because-
made back all the money that they paid him on that contract. For anybody who doesn't realize, like what Ohtani does for that
yeah.
roster and that revenue generating stream that he is,
He doesn't even need to pitch.
he doesn't. He could just be there and it would be fine.
Yeah.
Listen, Ohtani looking at baseballs does more offensively than most of us ever have.
Well,
what he does.
don't sell yourself short.
Listen. Men's league. Ohtani.
You've got the men's league fans up in arms. For those watching, listening, first of all, thank you. We always appreciate it. The link to the latest episode is in the chat. I know we've been talking about it a lot. Feel free to go pop that in your queue. Go listen to it on your drive tomorrow morning, and then a new episode will be coming out in the morning on Tuesday for a conversation around a lot of different things, but mainly an interesting trade that happened this week within the game of baseball, and then the bookends of the best and worst of what we've seen between the Tigers and the Rockies. like I said before, what we would do if we were the GMs of the Rockies right now, kind of some of the focal points we'd kind of have to get going in the right direction. And then the Tigers, what's working, what's not, what's going to need to shift to kind of maintain this momentum going through the next 4 months, because the season is far from over and there's a lot of baseball to be played.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep. Excited for this week's episode, guys. Take a listen if you get an opportunity. As always, Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Take a look. If you're not already following us on Twitter, definitely give us a quick follow. Baseball content all day long is what we're always going for. But past that, guys, final thoughts today on the weekly roundup. Does anybody have anything good?
If you are not watching college baseball, watch college baseball now.
Yes. Yeah. Go watch it.
Watch college baseball. My Bucks are out, brutal into the season, but watch college baseball right now. Watch it. Little Rock was 15 games under 500 and is about to play for a super regional tomorrow. And if the score holds, they're beating LSU right now.
That's amazing.
Wait, who is this?
Little Rock, 15 games under 500 in the
Whoa.
OVC. Is
Come on.
running through the losers bracket. Got to LSU and is beating him 6-3 right now.
Let's go.
So the real update we need before we leave, though, is what's going on in the Denison Big Red game.
Not good.
Oh, no.
They're down 5-1 in the bottom of the 7th. The
Yes.
kid on the mound for Rowan is like an absolute psycho. He's throwing the ball really well. Credit to him. He's throwing it well. And they're a good offensive team. It's the same thing that happened in the first game today. Denison's hitting the ball hard all over the ballpark, and they're just hitting it right at guys. Their leadoff hitter hit a ball so hard. I mean, they showed video of it. He, hit the ball and immediately sprinted out of the box, hit it so hard off the wall he got thrown out at second. So just a lot of, bad luck. But they're towards the bottom of the order, man on first with 1 out in the 7th. So if they can turn the lineup over with a couple guys on here, that would help. Single through the right side. First and second, 1 out.
One more thing. Shout out LSU Shreveport.
Yes.
NAIA baseball. They went 59-0. Ran through the season. For, believe longest undefeated season in college baseball. Just people out there. There is good baseball all over. Good baseball all over. NAIA D3. Good baseball.
Awesome.
It's a great time to be a baseball fan.
Speaking of records, guy on Denison won national player of the year last year. This year set the record for most runs scored in a career across all levels of NCAA baseball.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it helps when every time he's on first base, he then steals second and then steals third. Let me bring it up. I'll bring up his stats
he
real
subscribes to that. He subscribes to that Ricky Henderson shit, huh?
quick. Yeah. I'll pull up his stats.
Soon to be known by children as Chandler Simpson stuff.
Yeah, right. If it would load, there we go. Let me get to some stats. He this year was actually, I don't even think he was the best hitter on the team, which is crazy to think about. But his numbers were something special. He hit. It's loading. There we go. Yeah, he hit 362 with 9 bombs, 15 doubles, 72 hits, 47 RBIs. He stole. Where are his stolen bases? He stole 31 bases. Whew. 31 for 35 stolen bases this year. Last year, I think, was even better. He stole 42 of 45. Oof. And then the year before, 42 of 45 is ridiculous.
Yeah.
And then the year before, he stole 38 of 43. He set the record for most stolen bases in a career not even halfway through his junior season.
That's unreal.
Yeah,
I wish I was fast like that.
He'll have his number on the fence. Which one of my roommates in college wore the same number, so he's really excited that his number is going to be on the fence.
Turns out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, we'll see if they can mount a comeback here. So I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens. If they lose tonight, they're done. If they win tonight, they play at 1:30 tomorrow, and got to win twice against one of the best teams in the country. So it is what it is.
Never say die, baby. Never say die. Welcome to baseball.
This is D3 baseball, man.
That's awesome.
Where football scores are baseball scores, and baseball scores are football scores.
Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. As always, weekly roundups on Sundays around 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. New episode will be out on Tuesday. Keep an eye out for that again across all of your favorite platforms, Spotify, Apple Music, and YouTube. Drop a follow. We appreciate you guys. As always, have a great week and enjoy the baseball. See ya.
See ya.